I might as well just create a Ben Simmons playlist at this point, because I've been talking about him a staggering number of times this offseason. And here we are again. This time it's Woj tweeting out about it, so we had to make a video. Per ESPN sources, Philadelphia 76ers All-Star Ben Simmons will not report for the opening of training camp next week and intends to never play another game for the franchise. Simmons hasn't spoken to the team since a late August meeting where he communicated this message to 76ers personnel. That's the tweet from Woj on Twitter. So where are we at this point with Ben Simmons? Well, we've done videos on this in the past. Him not showing up is actually hurting his value. Him doing this is probably hurting his trade value because everyone knows Ben Simmons wants out. Everyone knows he intends to never play another game for the 76ers. So why? I mean, and to be honest, most teams are probably already aware of this behind the scenes. We've had videos, we've had tweets, and we've had plenty of stuff come out behind the scenes about all this stuff in the past couple of months. We already kind of knew Ben Simmons was not going to play Philadelphia again, or at least he didn't want to. But now, Woj tweeting out about it kind of makes it much more official in my opinion, just because it's Woj, but his value is already down. You know, no team's going to offer what Philadelphia was asking for before the draft. Where it was what, like four high picks and prospects? It's not going to happen. No way. Ben Simmons says he doesn't want to play for the 76ers anymore. Okay, that's fine. Wait a couple of months. You know, if you want to trade for Ben Simmons, I don't know necessarily why you would unless you think he's going to add to your championship caliber team. And I'm not sure what roster would immediately benefit from having him on. People have talked about Golden State. Obviously, he wants to go to Golden State, but you know, there's our clash here because Draymond Green's such a close comparison to Ben Simmons and things they do well. Would adding a defensive player really slow down that team, really stop that offense? You know, wouldn't really add much efficiency to it. Utah doesn't make a lot of sense. Utah already has a bunch of highly paid players in their roster, and you already have Rudy Gobert, who's kind of, again, a ball stopper on offense, so you don't want to add in someone like Ben Simmons to that combination. Lakers, I would say, LeBron wants to team up with Ben Simmons because I know he likes Ben Simmons, but they don't have the cap space. Now they have Russell Westbrook as well, so it doesn't make any sense there. Again, Westbrook, another point guard, doesn't shoot threes well, so why would you want to pair him up with Ben Simmons if it was even possible to do so? The Clippers want Ben Simmons potentially, and it depends on how long it takes Kawhi Leonard to really get back to 100%. So maybe the Clippers, but again, the Clippers have really built the roster currently around depth and having a large number of contributors on the roster as opposed to having a few superstars and then nothing else around them. So I don't really know if they want to sacrifice that depth for a guy like Ben Simmons. Again, Ben Simmons does not intend to play in our game for the Philadelphia 76ers. He wants to be done with the franchise, basically. And I know Joel Embiid downplayed this whole thing over the offseason where, Ben Simmons wasn't responding to his calls. He was ghosting on Joel Embiid. Embiid kind of downplayed it, did the professional thing, tried to sweep it under the rug and say, it's no big deal. You know, it's all love and respect, which it might well be between those two. I don't really know. But clearly there's a disconnect here between Ben Simmons and the organization. They're not going to be on the same page. They're not getting back together. This is going to be it for them. And it comes at a very unfortunate time for Philadelphia because, again, Ben Simmons is saying he's not going to play. That's fine. They can fine him. They can do all this stuff to him. They can spend him. They can do all that stuff. But he signed a 5-year contract worth just a little bit over $177 million recently. He's 1 year into that deal. So it's really hard to move that contract, especially after how we saw he played against the Atlanta Hawks in the playoffs. And we know he wants to be moved. So that makes it even harder to move the deal as well, because everyone knows, you don't have to trade premier value to get this guy, because he's going to be on a discounted price in a month or two anyways. You know, Philadelphia can't expect 4 first-rounders for Ben Simmons. You might get 2. You know, the right team might send 2 and a couple seconds. But you're not going to get James Harden-level trade value for Ben Simmons, because 1, he's not James Harden. 2, you know, this organization in Philadelphia has been so mixed up, even with Doc Rivers coming in. It's been so messy. And now you've got someone, Ben Simmons, who wants out. He's making it very clear. It's been publicized at this point he wants out. No team's going to call up for a guy, Ben Simmons, who's like a tier 2 level all-star. I say, or tier 2 level all-NBA player. I say that because, again, the offensive game just is not there right now. The jump shooting is not there. So if that's not part of your game, you cannot be a tier 1 caliber player. Even if you are the best perimeter defender in the league, or if you're one of the best overall defenders in the NBA, you cannot be tier 1 if you cannot have a complete game. Rudy Gobert is not tier 1 for me because he does not play a complete game. Same with Ben Simmons. So you're not going to get that kind of value in trade for a guy like that in the first place. But even if you could sucker a team into doing that deal, it's not going to happen now. Ben Simmons wants out. He doesn't want to play with you anymore. So people are just going to wait for the Philadelphia to crack and trade him for 2 firsts or something like that. Something much lower than what they had in mind originally. And if you're Philadelphia, you've tried to trade him multiple times already. You floated multiple different offers out there that being made public. So it's not like it was all just a one-sided thing here where Ben Simmons is completely responsible for the breakdown here in communication. Philadelphia, at the same time, has not been the most supportive of him, both as an organization and as a fan base. But at the same time, Ben Simmons has not necessarily shown that he wants to develop or continue to develop as a player. Now, his defense, again, has gotten so much better over time in the NBA. But he is, offensively, at least his offensive contributions are pretty much the same from his rookie year up until now. He just has not gotten much better on offense. And that's essential in the NBA. You know, the phrase is defense wins championships, but to get there, you need to have a really good offense in the regular season. You know, you need to be scoring, you need to be contributing, and you cannot be playing 4-on-5 basketball in the playoffs because Ben Simmons has to get stuck by like mid-court and Atlanta doesn't have to even touch him. Because, I mean, the only fear of Ben Simmons when he's on that half court is that he can drive. Even then, though, he had an open dunk at one point, or at least a layup against the Hawks, and he passed it up. He threw the ball. He was under the basket, and he passes it out. What could have been an and one play. A very emotional, momentum swinging play. He passes it out. So Ben Simmons, to me, is a guy who could completely rebuild his career somewhere else. He's a good enough player to go to a different team, and he has that support. He has that more support from the fan base and from the team as well. I could see him totally turn things around, but right now, it's definitely in his head. There's definitely a mental aspect to this. It's not going to work out for him in Philadelphia. He seems to know that. I think the fans seem to know that. I think the organization knows that. But they probably were hoping that he would at least show up at training camp, at least participate until they found a trade destination for him. Now you're looking at a team that's going to be in Philadelphia, that's going to be undermanned because you're going to be missing a superstar defensive player. You're not going to get anything in return for him immediately because he's going to be sitting out. You're going to be finding him. And, you know, when has that ever really bothered someone who's so resolute as Ben Simmons is right now and about not wanting to play for that team again? It's just a lot going on right now. And Ben Simmons is not looking so great in terms of public image because of all this. And again, it's not all Ben Simmons' fault. The 76ers bear some burden here, so do the fans. But, you know, it's your job to improve as a basketball player and continue to refine your craft. And Ben Simmons, to some extent, has not done that, which is what leads us to this point. He's putting Philadelphia in a very tricky situation, and the 76ers probably feel that they're in a very tricky situation. Here's a massive investment you made in a player, giving him a massive extension, and now 1 year into it, he wants out. What do you do? If you comply, does that open the door to Joel Embiid doing this 2 years down the line? People will say, sure, Joel Embiid will never do this. Well, you don't know that. You don't know Joel Embiid. What if the 76ers are terrible 2 years from now? Joel Embiid's towards the back end of his prime because he is older than most people realize, and he has a bunch of knee issues. What if Joel Embiid towards the back end of his prime here, and he goes, wow, this organization is never put together. Maybe I want out. And again, people say, oh, he'll never do that. He'll never do. You have no idea. Neither do I. But again, you can't, if you're Philadelphia, do you comply with Ben Simmons here and make the trade and then open the door to other guys doing this in the future? Or do you hold him hostage and find him and just never progress beyond the point that you are at now with Ben Simmons? In which case, his trade value will continue to decline, and you as a franchise are going to be stuck out there without one of your best players. And no one else to contribute. You're having a bunch of basically dead cap space on your team. So, that's where we're at with the Ben Simmons saga. Just the latest update. I'm sure there'll be more to come in the coming months. But for now, let's leave it there. Talk to you guys all later.